Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, maybe for some of you, and good evening for the guys maybe dialing from Asia. I'm delighted to be with you. If it's okay with you, we're just going to wait another minute as we have different sessions back to back. So we're going to wait for some delegates to pop from another session to this session. All right, let's crack on. We got a bit shy of an hour. I'd like to start then. I'm pleased to meet you. My name is Stephane. I'm based in Paris and I work for Pool. We work with about 120 media brands over 10 countries, and we mostly help these brands, which are legacy publications and digital native media, like maybe most of you, to convert their audience, their digital audience, into consented leads, members and subscribers. But that's enough. I'm not going to talk you too much about what we do, but more what we have to share with you, and think about the famous ARPU, average revenue per user. How to increase it, why increasing it, and how to go about it in 3 complementary, simple steps. Intriguing, right? Let's go. So yes, I guess most of you know that time. I've been in media for 15 years. Yes, they call me daddy at the office. I'm the old guy. And it used to be that simple, more traffic, more page views, more ad impressions, more money. And I even remember some publishers adopting what we used to call the mullet strategy. You see, the mullet is a haircut from maybe some, 80s German soccer players. You see, like short hair in the front and long hair in the back. Very different from my haircut, by the way. And that strategy was to say they were doing a lot of inventory and they were having great premium inventory on the homepage, short hair, looking good, but they were building a lot of forums and some kind of very different content on the back to generate as many impressions as possible. That's what we used to call the mullet strategy. And the impression machine scheme is a bit broken now. Because first of all, we moved from a branding to a performance culture in digital, which is great, by the way. But if you think about click-through, you're more likely to be admitted in Harvard, become a SEAL in the U.S. Navy, get a full house in Parker, climb the Mount Everest. But I'm sure maybe some of you did so, or have twins. Click-through are really low, and it kind of makes sense because there are more and more ad impression per page. So the click-through is divided equally. Click-through suck. We know that 0.05% is the average. When you have a 0.1%, woo, you're amazed for your clients, you're amazed for yourself. But if we just don't think about the performance, we've got different factors impacting the monetization. And 35% is a big number because this is the percentage of readers that are using ad blockers. We know that, but that's getting bigger. And there is another reaction from users about not liking ads. Maybe we did too many ads, too many intrusive ads. We know that, but that was a word of supply, more money. And that's why there have been some initiatives from the industry to provide better ad experiences, which means it was pretty bad. That's getting tougher, even more complicated, because if you look at the ad revenue, publishers, digital natives are fighting for pennies compared to Google and Facebook. As you know, Google and Facebook are capturing 80% of the ad revenue in digital, and 20% is split across the whole ecosystem. the whole ecosystem are publishers, networks, blogs, anyone. Also, traffic, 80% is on mobile, and we know that, it's harder to monetize for most folks mobile inventory. There are solutions out there, of course, and some of them are in this event, but most of the traffic is going mobile, and it's harder and harder to monetize them. Another factor is cookie content rates are falling. I mean, most especially in France, as you can hear with my strong accent, there's been a change of law which requires publishers and brands to offer the ability at the same level for consumers to accept or refuse personalized ads. But we see that up and coming in different countries. Finland is following the path. Many other countries are following there. So we know that trend, which has been impacting content rate by 20%, is not just in France. It's going to follow in other countries in Europe and maybe in other parts of the world. And last but not least, of course, third-party cookies are phasing out. I think most of you have been pretty happy about this being postponed. But at the end of the day, we still need to think about being able to operate without third-party cookies and think about different identifiers to target and retarget. So that's the doom and gloom part of the business. And if we take, each of these different parts, one is being the cookie consent. Why does it matter? It matters because, bottom line, cookieless inventories are being sold at half the value of an inventory which is consented. The reality, it could be zero for some publishers. We got a quote here from Prisma, David there, where he admitted that the revenue per 1,000 pages is 80% less than when they have consent. And this has been happening in shy than 6 months in France, but it's expected to drop another 20% every 6 months. So if you fast forward that, yes, the future has a deadline, because if you lose, 20% consent every 6 months, and you lose 10% of your ad revenue mostly, and on and on and on. So yes, publishers thought that, okay, it's hard to be in the advertising business. Fair enough. Many trends, cookie, ad blockers, third-party cookies fading out, content issues, concern from publishers, challenges in performance. So why not embracing circulation? Why not embracing subscription? But the challenge is that, publishers have been selling advertising instead of journalism for too long. So it's kind of hard to suddenly say, hey, readers, now it's time to pay. They need for that to have a very strong value proposition to create desire. Everyone's turning to reader revenue. Everyone. So that's kind of a big buzzword for the last 2 years. And yes, it's a little crowded out there. You've got the legacy publication been doing that for the last few years, and now they're trying to optimize their conversion rate. But you got a lot of new players launching a subscription. But if you think about it, it's not just publishers, it's media and content more broadly. And we've all seen that with COVID-19. Last year, a lot of publishers have been seeing their circulation revenue, subscription revenue growing, of course. But at the same time, households have been subscribing to other things, music, video, and they add pile and pile and pile of subscription. And they now look at rationalizing this decision. And it's hard to convince them to throw yet another €3, €9, €15 for another offer. We're competing for attention and share of wallet. And yes, it's good because digital media now are looking at this and thinking about, all right, I need to go into this, but it's time to move now, not years. All right. I know, a bit doom and gloom, but of course we come with solution. Every challenge is an opportunity, right? But if we focus for a second, this is the detail of the challenge. If you think about converting your digital audience into business, we look at traffic as an aggregated traffic, right? Unique users, sessions, page views. But if we break down, if we just look at engagement, I mean, 80% of the audience of most media brands is volatile, which means they only come once a month. If you think about cookie consent, right, 70% is consented, 30% is non-consented, which means no tracking, no data, no targeting. It's hard for your clients when you sell ads. It's even hard for yourself when you want to better your own marketing. And the third part of the audience equation is, 90% of the audience is anonymous. Exception being in, of course, some broadcasters which are having a very strong login strategy. But apart from that, most publications, most media brands, most digital native players are having most of their traffic anonymous. Anonymous is challenging because, as you know, it means no identifier. And we talked about third-party cookies phasing. Anonymous is hard to target, to retarget in different ways, different mechanisms. Whereas members, subscribers, you've got not just a cookie, you've got another ID. That ID can be an email, can be many other things, and that's going to allow you to do some, CRM onboarding and retargeting on platforms and command higher CPMs, therefore higher revenue per 1,000 page views. So let's go into some numbers now. Hang with me. The first one is looking at the relationship between engagement and conversion for subscription. So let's say you're a digital publisher, you want to embrace, subscription revenues. You have to think that a volatile is having one session a month, generating about 1.3 in average, a short time spent with a big bounce rate. And bottom line, the conversion rate is 0.01%. These numbers are an aggregated view about what we see on the market out of the 120 brands we work with. Of course, we got top performers, low performers. That gives you a clear view about a classic media brand. And you see how it goes from volatile down to the subscribers. Occasionally generate more sessions and more pages by session. Regular, even more. Fan, even more. And the bounce rate is going down. Makes sense, because they don't just read one page. But what's interesting is to see there is a correlation between engagement metrics, aka frequency of visits during a given month, and the subscription conversion rate. And it's way bigger from a volatile 0.01% up to 0.6 in a fan. Challenge is you have very few fans and a lot of volatile users. And if you just focus on members are great because not only generates more visits, more page views, more inventory, and first-party data, but also the conversion rate is way higher when you introduce a subscription offer, 3.2%. So that's the link between engagement, membership, and conversion rate as far as subscription is concerned. Now, even let's play with some numbers. Let's look about the average revenue per user. And you've got on the left, we broke down the audience between volatile, occasional, regular fans and members. You've got to break down a session per month, the percentage of traffic that you represent in average, the page view per session that each of these cohorts are generating. And then we can think about the average revenue per user. Because here in the exercise, we thought that, all right, let's imagine that the revenue per 1,000 pages is 1.5 euro. And that would be the same for all the anonymous audience, volatile, occasional, regulars, and fans. But it would be higher for members because you command higher CPMs thanks to first-party data. So let's say 2 euros. You got two buckets, anonymous at 1.5 RPM, members are 2 euros. And then you can see the average revenue per user. It's so low that with Marion, my colleague, our CMO, who did prepare this presentation, we thought about the average revenue per kilo user, right? The 1,000 users. And you see that volatile is €2 and fan is €80. The difference is huge, and it's even bigger for members. But you lose that advantage. So if you see that the volatile are so important in the audience, being 90% of the traffic, the real average revenue per 1,000 user is about €4 for whole audience. And you got the breakdown. That's the way you should read this chart. And if you look to the revenue for no consented, well, it's half. That's one part of the equation. What's interesting to see is how subscription is additive to the advertising strategy. If you look at subscription, the conversion rate might be really low, but with a €9 monthly offer, even with a very low conversion rate, you can start to find some decent average revenue per 1,000 user, and you can see the comparison. I mean, for volatile, you got half more revenue per 1,000 users. But if you look at fans, yeah, it's maybe less because you monetize them pretty well with advertising. But members, that's really impressive, because members, you add about 3 times more average revenue per 1,000 users when you do advertising on one hand and when you do subscription on the other hand. All right. So it shows that it would be good to do some subscription, even if it's hard. But it's also looked that the average revenue per user in your advertising monetization really depends on engagement metrics and on having members. And you see it from these numbers. A fan user is worth 45 times more than a volatile user. And a member is worth 2.5 times more than a fan user. And subscribers generate more value than just casual readers, more value than 20 members, more value than 300 anonymous users. So that's why you need to think about engaging a user step by step to increase your global average revenue per user. You want engagement, make them come more often. You want self-conversion, turning anonymous into members and registering to newsletters. And you want conversion in subscription revenue. So, all right. I start with a pretty doom and gloom picture, then I show you some numbers, but at the end of the day is, where should I start? What should I do? Because that's what we're here to talk about, to touch on. And I saved a pretty good amount of time for you guys to ask questions and us to discuss about that. Priority is short-term. Of course, you're making money with advertising and you should defend that position. That's really important. You need to play defend there. You need to maintain your ad-based revenue, and you need to get back to cookie consent rates to the next level. And I will show you how you can do that. So here, the way content is managed is leveraged by CMPs, content management platforms. Didomi is one of the leaders in Europe, clearly a leader in Europe, and we have a great partnership with them. And CMP normally is used today for compliance. The text is a bit dry, but when you come to a given publication, on the homepage, on the section, an article, you got a message asking you to accept, refuse, or manage your preferences. That's it. What we do, and again, with a partnership with Didomi, is that we think that there is another moment to ask this question to a reader. And what better moment than when the reader wants to access a very specific content? So we're using our wall technology so that if a user did not consent and want to access to a given set of articles, let's say very premium articles, long form articles, we're going to be able to ask again the question, do you want to consent? And you can give an alternative. So that's really an effort. What we do is to complement what you do with your CMP and maximize the consent rates. We do not replace a CMP, right? And you should not replace a CMP. CMP is core to what you do, compliance and maybe preference marketing. So let me show you some example. We've been working with, Melty, a social first publication in France, trying to get back more control about their audience, and now they do subscription, by the way, but they optimize content rate using this approach. And what's interesting here is that you have an opportunity to give more like a marketing message about the importance of content. It's not just compliance. You can use more design and text. These designs so far are pretty simple, but it could be a bit more consumer focused. And you can suggest content, which is, sorry, here screenshot are in French. I give my consent or no thanks. I keep reading. That's one way. You go soft. Or you can constrain. You can say, listen, for this set of articles, which are premium, either you want to read freely the article and you need to consent, or you need to subscribe. Medium term, so short term, boosting cookie consent rates, coupling CMP and cookie wall with alternative efforts. Midterm, digital publication needs to think about seriously focusing on a membership strategy and growing the membership base. Membership, as we discussed, is great for so many reasons. It drives more engagement. You get, therefore, better average revenue per users. You can get opt-in so that you can leads for your clients and for yourself. And you can sell to members many other things than content. You can sell them products, services. So the membership is key. And last but not least, having first-party data, other type of identifiers that you can leverage to monetize your inventory, with partners like ZeroTap, for example. But you need to think about the reason for folks to become a member. You should not just come in and say, hey, to read this article, become a member. You need to associate some benefits to be a member. All right, the benefit to be, I'm part of the community. That's a good one. But it could be access to specific newsletters, specific content, some services, some polls about the product feedback. So you really have to think about your value proposition for membership. Don't just jump in the ship of membership and put a wall with get an account so that you can read. That's really an important step to convert an anonymous user into a member. And for this, you need the registration wall. And there are many ways to do registration walls. We got some example of some of our clients here. Elle, for example, on the left, lifestyle magazine from CMI in France. And they started working with us just to help get readers to become members, and then they went on launch digital subscription. And you got other players that are using different techniques, and some are leveraging the fact that someone registers to ask some questions so that they can profile the audience. The third example is the case of a publication work with. It's not really a publication, by the way. It is a website which is focusing on pets. And the website is not selling content. They're selling subscription to pet food, premium pet food. And they're selling subscription to a hotline for health advice for your pet. And of course, they use content as a way to get some leads. And they use our registration word, for example, to qualify the audience and say, are you a cat or a dog owner? And they ask question about, is it male or female, and date of birth of the animal. And they can use that to do a better job in getting their leads for themselves and sell their product, or maybe work with partners who are interested to know that about the audience. We even use it ourselves, of course, on our website. Long term, of course, think about recurring and predictable revenue stream. Advertising is great. It goes ups and down. We've seen that. And subscription is here to stay. That's more sustainable. And that's how you need to think also about having not just about a great content strategy, but a paywall strategy, so you can really start to make money. And yes, you guys know paywall. There are so many different type of paywall. Sometimes you hate it, sometimes you like it. Because again, it's not just about saying you need to pay now. You need to think about the value proposition. Why should someone pay? Easier when they already engaged and came several times, by the way, which is why fans and members convert better. And you can talk, you can, in a wall on the left, as you can see, you can make people see two type of offers they can pick from. If you see L, they really make a great job of expressing the benefit of becoming a member, a subscriber here on the bottom, but also they play and change design according to season. Because what's interesting is even if you say I've got great content, I launch a paywall, you're gonna have to think about the way you show your value proposition in the wall and change it, optimize it. Because it's like banners. Readers, time after time, they become blind. They don't see walls anymore. So you need to think about, catching their attention. And we've got other folks which are not collecting, like Tacker City, one of our clients, is not just asking for subscription, but for donation. That's what is interesting. In the subscription economy, there is a very specific set, which is more the donation economy. A lot of American publications are non-profit, and they're happy for donation, but not subscription. What is fun is we see a trend on the market where publishers are asking for recurring donation. Well, that looks a bit like subscription, but it's okay. It means that the reader can pick the amount they want to give, even on a regular basis. So let's recap about what you need to do to really maximize your average revenue per user. If you look at the volatile readers, the biggest part of your audience, they are not engaged, they don't really have a high propensity to subscribe. These are the eyeballs you need to monetize with advertising. And for this, you need to maximize content. But also you need to do all you can to better engage them so that they become occasional regulars and fans. Let them discover your content. Let them browse. Now, what about the engaged readers? They are frequent, which is great, and they generate more page views, back to the old currency, but they're still anonymous. Make them become members, and you can use a registration wall to do that. And about members, of course, they are identified, but they are non-paying consumers. Leverage these folks to sell them subscription or donation or other type of services they can get access to. For this, you need a paywall. And for those who don't convert anywhere, it can be like the Washington Post and be very bold, right? And kind of say, either you give me consent and you got free access, so you become subscribers, you cannot see any article, even though. So that's about the end, and I've got a bit faster the time because I know 1 hour can be really long, and I want to make sure we can talk a bit. And what really matters also is when you operate your business, you should stop to be obsessed with the traffic as your first KPI. I mean, yes, that's an important KPI. You can talk about users, unique users, and claim a high reach. That's great. It's good for media planning, right? Big numbers of folks. But traffic can be looked so many ways. Any you can get an angle about visits, page views, but traffic just in general doesn't pay the bill. So you need to make people think differently within the organization. You should better look at other things such as the ratio of daily active users versus monthly active users. That gives you, an interesting insight about how sticky your audience is, how you're able to form habit. And if you form habit, as you know, you're more likely to get great outcome, which means conversion, which means money. Think about other metrics than just pure straightforward traffic. Look at the conversion rate, break down the audience, show the difference of profitability. Sorry, guys, I get excited. And that's it. I just put my detail there in case you guys want to reach. But I'm here to answer a question you may have. And as I said, we are here to help in case of interest or even bounce ideas. We position ourselves as an audience conversion platform, as you see. And the idea is to make sure that you, publishers, take back control of your revenue by transforming anonymous users into content leads, members, and subscribers. And this can be done pretty fast. This is not a heavy burden. Oh, I see Mirza typing here. Guys, you can shoot, throw tomatoes. I'm here, and I'm just going to open the light because it's becoming dark here. Here you go.
Hello, join you on stage. We have a question from Aurélien, who is asking, with Cookie Wall, did you ever have a client that had a legacy issue?
So if we had a client which has had an issue, could
yeah,
you
with
tell us?
the low legacy issue.
That's interesting because if we just look at our market, core market being France, I just explain you what is the current situation. The situation in France is you've got the CNIL, which is like the ICO in the UK. We say that consent must be given two options: is accept or refuse. But then the industry of media has been a bit arguing about that, and it went up to the Supreme Court somehow, Conseil d'État. And Conseil d'État admitted that for the media industry, there was a specific context, and therefore publication in media should be able to not just say yes or no, but offer an alternative which must be freely consented. And a valid alternative can be, I give my consent or I subscribe. So that's something which has been put in place at the moment in France, and it'd be good. We could think about other alternatives. Alternative can be create an account, register to a newsletter, watch an ad. But the reality, this alternative must be without dropping a cookie. So you still have to work on finding cookies after. So the easiest way today is to offer to accept or keep browsing, offer to accept or subscribe. At the moment, been no issue reported on the French market with this approach. I see, Marion, some other questions?
Yes, we have Jenna asking, how important is personalization in the process of converting users to the next level, from volatile to fan, from fan to member? Do we have to personalize a lot the content, maybe the services that we show to the reader?
That's a very good point, because at the end of the day, first you want to convert the obvious ones, but then you want to be better and better in your conversion, and personalization is key in many different ways. So let's take some example. We talk about different type of audience segment as far as engagement is concerned. So if you want to optimize a paywall, for example, premium content, you need to personalize the journey depending on the engagement metrics. And back to the point, personalization would be leave alone the volatile when they start, don't right away ask them to subscribe, and go straight on the hard paywall on a fan. But the personalization can be way more interesting when you think about the call to action, the value proposition, the message you give to them. And let's take an example. We've got some clients who show a different message if someone is browsing on an article about politics versus soccer. And it means that for politics, the paywall might more stress the fact that the publication has a decent coverage around politics. And maybe for the soccer, strangely, it's going to be about, hey, we've got amazing content on soccer. So this idea of personalization is important. But our point of view with Mario and the folks at Pool is we think you need to think about personalization with big cohort, things you understand, segments about engagement, context about content. It's less about one-to-one personalization at scale, right? It's not like big data automation. It's like you understand, you think as a marketer about, is someone on mobile versus desktop? I should treat them differently. Is someone on a country another? I should treat them differently. Things that make sense, but more importantly, things you can test after, A/B test, and see if really you got incremental. So personalization, yes. Context, engagement, but test it, test it.
We have another question. We have actually two other questions. First from Mirza, she's asking, are your recommendations also applicable for apps and not just web?
Apps is a different beast because there are so many different type of apps, right? You got web views, you got some things which are operating on React native, iOS, Android native. Some are just for subscribers, some are open. Um, we see less of an experience on the apps as far as being very granular and personalized about cookie consent, registration, and paywall. There are some strong players that focus just on apps to really think about maximizing, subscription. Uh, but apps, it's a harder beast to manage cookie consent, for example, for sure. You can push membership, but some apps are just for members. So that's why we see less of a quick win on maximizing your average revenue per user on apps than on desktop and mobile. So desktop, mobile, AMP, this is where you can really move the needle fast.
Another question from Melanie. Have we already measured the impact of a cookie wall on global consumption? And I know we have.
Yes. So that's an important fact. We've seen publishers getting 9%, consent in over 6 weeks sometimes. So again, it depends on the strategy. We've shown you some example about just asking, some be a bit tougher about making a choice. But yes, that works pretty fast to get. The goal is to get back to your current level, right? That's what you have. It's not going to be better than before when you were not asking for consent for sure at the same level. But the goal is to mitigate the decrease and ideally get almost or at the same level as before. So yes, it's working.
Yes, and not to increase your bounce rate. It's better to do it at the article level and not at the homepage level.
So your point is absolutely spot on, Marion. You are right. I should have mentioned that because the challenge with when you go with these questions, this or this, right away, when you come to a publication, the challenges, as you described, Marion, is people bouncing. But bounce is in nature of digital, right? People come from an article, they get out, it's okay. But the challenge here, what Marion is thinking about is the bounce is bounce over time because people will bounce and not combine again. So if you really monitor your bounce rate, think about the impact of the exposure of a too hard message right away on the average repeat over maybe 60 days. And you will realize that you lose folks, but not just for the session. You maybe lose them for the next few weeks.
And we're done with the question for now. Has anyone has something to ask before we close the event? I don't see anyone typing. So maybe we will end this session.
Yeah, it's good. So you guys got 22 more minutes to do emails and phone calls. So thank you. Someone maybe? Let's see. Are we good?
Yeah, that's Melanie saying thank you. Thank
All
you,
right.
Melanie.
Merci à tous.
Au revoir.
Thanks, Marion. Cheers.